Wait, stop scrolling because I just uncovered something that completely changes how you might see this whole family. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing well today. So, let me start by saying this didn't come from a random rumor online. This came from someone who is actually close to the family. Not a fan, not a troll, someone with real access. And they reached out to me privately and said, "You really need to look into this little piece of information floating around. You know those little nuggets you hear in passing and ignore? Yeah, this wasn't one of those. The topic? A certain older son, you know, the pilot, the quiet one who stays out of drama, allegedly being let go from a law enforcement role. But here's where it gets interesting. According to what I was told, he wasn't fired at all. In fact, he recently ran for a local position again. Another election. Yes, you heard that right. He put his name on the ballot. Now, did you already know that? Because I certainly didn't at first. And what's even more fascinating is that his own mother has spoken about him being a police officer in the past. That's not me guessing. That came straight from her. So before anyone says this is made up, just hold on. We're going to go step by step. First, let's talk about the election. I managed to get my hands on the official results. This is not speculation. This is public record from the 2026 Arkansas-Washington County election. You can see the date clearly right there. And guess what? He lost. But here's the kicker. It wasn't a blowout. It was close. Really close. The numbers are right there for anyone to see. A few hundred votes one way or the other, and this would be a completely different story. Now, why does that matter? Because it tells us something important. He still has local support. People in that county still know his name, still trust him enough to almost vote him into office. That doesn't happen if you're just some random reality TV kid who burned all his bridges. That happens when you have deep roots. And that's exactly what I've been saying for a while now. I've mentioned before that I believe several members of this family have very close relationships with local law enforcement. Specifically, the Washington County Sheriff's Department and the Tonytown Police Department. I didn't just pull that out of thin air. There have been hints for years. Little comments. Little moments. But now I have more than hints. Shout out to my source. Truly, because they didn't just give me a little breadcrumb. They gave me the whole loaf. They said, "Oh, it's way more than just knowing a few officers. This one son actually used to work for the police department. Not as a volunteer. Not as an intern. As an actual officer." And guess who confirmed it? His own mother. On her own public blog. She is the one who put it out there years ago. She said very clearly that this son used to be a police officer. She also mentioned how proud his parents are of him. And she should be proud. Any parent would be. But here's what's interesting. She wrote on that TLC blog that he has a job, a home, and he's even renting out a property for extra income. Smart guy. She also mentioned he was working on his pilot's license. But then she listed something else. She said he's been a firefighter, a police officer, and now a constable. I had to read that twice myself. Did I read it right? Yes. Michelle herself confirmed he was a police officer and later became a constable. That's not me twisting words. That's her own written statement. So, here's my question to you. Did you know that this particular son was a police officer? Because I don't remember that being a huge storyline on the show. I don't remember sit-down interviews about it. It was just quietly mentioned on a blog, and then forgotten. Interesting, isn't it? Now, let's think about what that really means. If you have a family member who has actually worn a badge, worked shifts, responded to calls, that person doesn't just forget everyone they met. They don't just lose those phone numbers. Those connections don't disappear when you hand in your uniform. In fact, those bonds can get even stronger over time. Because law enforcement is a brotherhood. You know that. I know that. We all know that. So when people say, "Oh, that was years ago, it doesn't matter anymore," I have to gently disagree. In real life, in the real world, when you used to work in law enforcement, you still have friends in law enforcement. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's just how human relationships work. You build trust over years. You share experiences. You have each other's back. And that doesn't just vanish. Now, does that mean anything illegal is happening? Not necessarily. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. When you have those close connections, human nature says you are more likely to get the benefit of the doubt. A phone call gets answered faster. A situation gets handled quietly instead of publicly. A warning replaces a ticket. A talk replaces an arrest. Is that fair?
No.
Does it happen? Every single day. We can pretend we live in a perfect world where everyone is treated exactly the same regardless of who they know. But that's not reality. And I refuse to sit here and act like it is. We are not living in La La Land. We are living in real life. And real life, it's messy. It's unfair. It's crooked sometimes.
And we have to be honest about that.
I'm not saying this family is doing anything illegal. I'm saying they have something that most people don't have. They have a built-in safety net. They have people who know them, like them, and probably want to protect them. And when you combine that with money, fame, and political connections, that's a very powerful combination. I honestly believe that the father and his sons benefit from this more than people realize. That's the real issue here. That's the part that should make us stop and think. Because the father didn't just raise his kids to be honest workers. He raised them in a very specific environment. An environment filled with politics, government officials, court rulings, and knowing how to navigate systems that confuse most regular people. Think about it. If you grow up with a father who is a politician, who runs for office, who shakes hands with judges, who knows exactly what to say and what not to say, you learn things. You learn how to talk your way through problems. You learn how to make people believe what you say, even if what you do is different. That's not an insult. That's just an observation. That's what politicians do. They tell people what they want to hear. And look, I'm not here to attack anyone personally. I'm here to connect that have been sitting in front of us for years. A mother says her son was a police officer. Public records show he ran for office and almost won. A source says the family has deep ties to local law enforcement. None of these are lies. None of these are exaggerations. So, why does it feel like we're just now putting it all together? Let me take a quick sip of something because, honestly, this is the kind of topic that gets my heart rate up. This is the hot tea I live for. Because it's not just gossip. It's about how power works in small towns. And let's be real. Arkansas isn't New York or LA. In smaller communities, who you know matters more than what you know. It always has. It always will. So when I hear people say, oh, it's just Jim Bob's money keeping everyone safe, I say no. That's only part of it. It's also their work history, their uniforms, their badges, their past service. When you've been a first responder, people remember you. Police remember you. Firefighters remember you. Dispatchers remember you. And when one of their own falls into a gray area, the natural instinct is to help. Not to harm. Not to expose.
To help.
That's not corruption. That's loyalty. But here's the problem. Loyalty can become a shield. And a shield can become a weapon when used against the truth. Now, those of us who have lived a little life, who have been around long enough to see how things really work, we know you can't deny reality. Reality is simple. You used to work in law enforcement? You still have connections in law enforcement. Full stop. Those are just facts. And when you have those connections, yes, you can absolutely get away with things that any regular person, any Tom, Dick, or Harry would never get away with. Does that make me angry? Sometimes. Should it happen?
No.
But does it happen? Every single day. And we can't sit here and pretend it doesn't. That would be dishonest. That would be naive. I'm not saying anyone in this family has committed a crime. Please hear me clearly. I am saying they have a level of protection that most people don't have. And that protection comes from three things: money, political upbringing, and law enforcement connections. Two of those three would already be powerful. All three together? That's almost impenetrable.
And here's my real concern.
I honestly think the father and these sons rely on that protection more than we know. That's the real problem underneath all the headlines. Because when you grow up in a world where your dad is a politician, where you're taught how to handle government officials, how to influence rulings, how to get out of difficult situations, that's not normal parenting. That's training. A politician's child learns things organically. They learn how to manipulate a conversation. They learn how to make people doubt what they see with their own eyes. They learn how to say one thing and do another while still sounding sincere.
Come on now.
You already know this. If you were raised by a politician, you would know exactly how to work the system. Not just with women. With everyone. With the whole system. That father has raised those children to manipulate people into believing what they say, not what they actually do. That's what politicians do every single day. They tell you what you want to hear. They promise things they can't deliver. They smile while hiding the truth. Do they not? Shout out again to my source for pushing me to look deeper and saying we cannot just turn a blind eye to this. Because I agree completely. We can't unsee what's right in front of us. Now I really want to know what you think about all of this. Did you know this son had been a police officer? Do you think those old connections still protect the family today? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And please don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. Share it with someone who needs to see this side of the story, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video or right back here in the comments. Thanks for watching.